Hey guys, I recently finished my Let's Play of Super Hostile number 12 Inferno Mines by Vex, and I decided at the end of it I wanted to go back to map making for a while. So, this is a new playlist I'm making. It's going to be called Devious Devices, and it's going to include all the videos I make on map making or on gameplay mechanics I want to include in a map, or map releases, all that kind of stuff. They might not all have to do with each other. It's not going to be like an episodic series like Inferno Mines, for example. So you might not have to watch episode 5 to understand what happens in episode 6, but they're all going to be in this playlist to make them easier to find. And I thought it might be a good idea, since my channel has grown a lot since I made maps last, might be a good idea to briefly take a look at the maps I've made in the past for the first video. So this is Globule number 1. Welcome to Globule, or here is Globule, something like that. This is the first map I made. So it says here, map by Zisteau, rules do whatever you'd like. So at some point, Vex put a MC Edit tutorial out on YouTube, and I watched it, and I wanted to learn how to use MC Edit because I wanted to start making maps. And so I gave myself this project as sort of a way to learn all the things he talked about in that video. So this is just a survival custom map. It doesn't have any rules or objectives, and its only real purpose is if you're a little bored of the default terrain gen for Minecraft and you want something a little weirder. And I ended up naming it Globule because it's just one big floating globule, I guess. So I made this entirely from MC Edit. Nothing was copy-pasted from the default terrain gen. And it was a way for me to learn MC Edit. There are a large number, a bountiful amount of supplies on the map once you get to them, but a finite amount because you can't go anywhere else, obviously. I mean, you'd have to, you could possibly bridge for a few thousand blocks to get to where the normal terrain gen starts again. But for example, once you find coal, there's a lot of it. Once you find iron, there's a lot of it. And there's some cave systems going in the middle. And there's a big chunk of diamonds somewhere in there. Lots of redstone. See all the iron down here in the bottom. There's a whole bunch of lapis. There's a bunch of redstone. Here's a cave that you might fall out of to your death. But really, it was just a way to learn how to use MC Edit. It was the first thing I ever made, and of course, it's raining. So after Globule number 1 was finished, I had some ideas for a different way I could do a map like that. And so I started work on Globule 2. And so this is Globule 2. You spawn in right here. Globule number 2, Scattered Globules. And there are still no real rules. Do whatever you'd like is the only rule. It's just a survival world if you're bored of the default terrain gen. I did decide to put in some optional building challenges just to give people something to do if they wanted some objectives, like build cool bridges or a water ride or a roller coaster or build a house on each globule. But there's still no real structure to it. It's just a survival map with weird terrain gen, and it was me experimenting with MC Edit, trying to make terrain from scratch. So with this one, I took that idea of the survival mechanics and having lots of each block. I took it one step farther. So normally in Minecraft, you start out punching trees, then you make stone tools, then you make iron tools, then you make diamond tools. And I wanted to sort of emphasize that gameplay. So what I did is I separated the globules into different blocks. So this is the dirt globule. You start here with nothing but some trees, and you can break this tall grass or whatever it's called. You can break that for seeds to make wheat. and you can farm some wheat up along the banks of this lake here. I also give you some fishing rods and a furnace to cook them in to give you some food while you're waiting on the wheat to get you started. So I like this idea of the survival gameplay mechanic. And so you're stuck here for a little while, and if you want to make stone tools, you've got to travel to a different globule to find stone, and then eventually to a different globule to find iron. So each of these globules kind of has a theme of 2 or 3 materials. So this one is obviously stone, sand, and reeds. And when I combined those materials, I tried to think of a biome that was interesting and tried to make it visually interesting. And I also, just for fun, I hid some spawners in some of the globules. Actually, one of the optional bonus challenges here is to make spawn traps from all the spawners, all the different types of spawners in the map. I don't know, I think skeletons maybe in this one. I don't remember, it's been a while. But you can see over here is a mushroom globule. So you can get mushrooms, mycelium. You can also get stone. And then I think in that chest there are some mushroom eggs. I think there used to be mushrooms here, but something happened at some point, and they're no longer a part of the map. Over here, this is probably the favorite one I made. This one has vines, oak trees, dirt, stone, and water. And I got some glowstone in the water for some ambient lighting. Here, let's do time set night. Okay, maybe not that much ambient lighting. This was probably my favorite one I made because it looks the coolest. It has the floating island concept with waterfalls spilling into each other. Over there you can see this. I think this is the iron globule, and also has lapis lazuli down there. And again, this is me playing with MC Edit, trying to get used to making maps, but also starting to have an idea about some gameplay mechanics. And I like the concept of this map, but I think it may be a little tedious to build the bridges everywhere. Maybe it's fun, maybe it's tedious. I don't know. Maybe it depends on your personality, how you interpret that. There's a village with villagers and sand, obviously. Yeah, let's look at a few more before we head on. There is the desert globule, and I remember that has spider spawners in it. I think the creeper ones are in the redstone. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But based on this map, I've been doing some thinking, and I think I know the next step to develop Globule 3, which is what I'm going to be working on next. And I have some ideas for an actual objective structure, which I'm going to take some inspiration from Vex, who kind of revolutionized objective maps in a lot of ways. There's pumpkins, spruce trees on this guy. And there's also, one of these has a ton of coal. One of them has a ton of iron. One of them has a ton of gold. And so to get to each material, you would have to journey to that globule. But then you would have just a stupid amount of it once you had it. So it sort of rewards exploration. It takes away some of the grindiness out of the game, because once you find them, you can just mine them all out as much as you want. You still have to mine them manually. But yeah, I like this map, but I think we can do better in Globule 3. Anyway, let's keep looking at more maps. So where we are right now, this is Zistau's Texture Pack Tester, a custom map I made for one of my subscriber bonuses, like a subscriber special video. I think it was 50,000, I don't recall. Or maybe 25,000, I don't remember. But the purpose of this map is just to give you kind of one of everything so that you can test out different texture packs and in one compact location kind of see all the kind of things you're going to need. We got all the different blocks you can craft there. We've got all the ores and trees and mushrooms and stuff here. There's a portal to the end and the nether. Then all of your items are in here, so you can look at them in different texture packs. There's a village there, and the buildings are all made out of different materials, just to give you an idea of what the blocks look like, sort of in the world, as it were. Over here, we've got a bunch of animals running crazy. I've used this map a while, so it's kind of a little worn in. These holes in the glass aren't here in the version you download. But anyway, if you want to see what different mob skins look like, you can click the button and it'll spawn one of everything. And this is a little bit out of date, this map. There's no emeralds on the map, for instance, because it was made before emeralds. Here's a Ghasty Poo. And then I also included some biomes here from different biomes, so that you can see what they look like in the world, what the terrain looks like. Because sometimes just looking at a grass block up close doesn't tell you what an entire terrain of that grass block is going to look like. So I included a number of little sample biomes here. And if you don't want to take the time to actually go to the end or the nether, there's a chunk of each right there. Okay, let's look at one more. So this was my first attempt at a PvP map. This is called Kill the Runner, and this is the only one I ever made, but I think it's a really interesting concept that I would like to revisit at some time in the future. This is Kill the Runner number 1, Fun with Pistons, and it's sort of themed around piston-type things. The concept is it's designed for 1 versus 1, but you could probably do 2 versus 2. So each team or each player picks a side. You're either going to be red or blue. And you take turns playing the role of the killer or the runner. So if the red team, if the player picks red, they go through the map as the killer first, trying to kill the runner. And then after you do each area, you come down this rail line. And this was made before command blocks. Teleporters would make this much simpler now. Then you switch roles. So now the red team or the red player is the runner, and the player who was previously the runner is trying to kill the runner. So let's go through each of... I wish I had Zombie's fly mod installed right now, actually, because his fly mod is so much better, and you can move faster than this. The creative fly mode is real bad. But anyway, you come in here, and you've got a chance to both set your spawns, and there's more rules there and suggestions for speeding up gameplay. You start out with this equipment, so the idea is you can really quickly do that. And I'm in creative mode, but you can equip the armor. Oh, okay. But I'm in creative mode, so it's not letting me. I gave you a lot of strips of material here so that if you die, you can very quickly re-equip the stuff. So all of these are the same. Knockback 3, Fire Aspect 3, Infinity 1, Splash Potion of Harming. And those are the same. Okay, and when both players say they're ready, you enter this point, and this is where the killer is located, and the runner tries to get through this area. First thing the runner has to do is break through these blocks, and then he's got to try to get to the exit over there. Now, there's going to be natural spawns. There's spawners in the floor, and I don't know if these mechanisms are still going to work, because this is quite old, and the wiring might be quite out of date, but let's try. Okay, you see how the walls grow when you click the button? Basically, there are cobblestone generators underground here, and every time you click the button, it pushes the walls up 1 block higher. So the killer can be shooting arrows, throwing his supply of splash potions of harming, and constructing barricades, which slows down the runner, which I think has just a wood pickaxe or a stone pickaxe, something fairly slow. So it's harder to get through these walls. They have to deal with monsters. And another thing it does is it cuts off the glowstone light creating darkness. See that natural spawn right there? So now, where there weren't any walls, and this was a big open area that was brightly lit, it's now subdivided. It has walls. It has monsters spawning. And so the killer is influencing the difficulty of the runner's chamber here. These walls were also raised, and now this area is very dark and monsters are spawning. This may seem like a lot of monsters. This game, this map is fairly old. It was balanced for an earlier patch, but anyway, the runner, when he gets through there, they tally up the number of deaths, and then they move on to the next chamber through this tunnel. Set your spawn again. Same supplies. Now this one is more of a platforming. This one was the hardest to balance because of monster spawns. I'll get into that in a minute. But the runner has to do a little parkour to get across these platforms. Has to try to not get knocked off these narrow ledges and not get knocked off them by the killer, who has a punch bow, but can also do this if it still works, which basically floods the platforms. Yeah, I guess it does still work. Floods the platforms and clears the torches, which makes it dark and more monsters spawn, and also pushes the runner off of the platform if he happens to be on it. The wiring is set up so that there's a cooldown, so you can't just constantly spam it. If I can find it, I haven't looked at this in forever. Yeah, here's the circuit. So the wiring is on a cooldown. You can only do it however often I set up. It's like maybe every 15 or 20 seconds or something. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try to get back into where I was. This right here, oh, this is the old version. No wonder there's so many monsters in there. We'll get to that in a second. This is a spawning room to spawn monsters in. You may notice nothing's in there. And we'll get to why in a little bit. Anyway, let's go on to the last chamber. The last chamber is my favorite, Zistonian Doomsday device. Now, this took a ton of wiring, and it would be stupidly easy to make today with the way you can use dispensers to summon TNT. So the runner has to get through this maze. Now, it can be slightly cheesed if the runner just places a few blocks and runs along the top of the walls, and he can probably get to the very end if he does that. But if he tries to navigate through the map, the killer has a bunch of these buttons here with colored wool corresponding to different locations. Let's see if this still works. I haven't tested this in a long time, but see this orange wool here correlates with this orange wool. We press that, TNT. Now this would be very simple to wire up now, because you can just put a stack of TNT in a dispenser, and it'll drop TNT when you send a redstone signal to it. That was not the case at this point of the map. So here's a red one, that red one right there. So you can follow the progress of the runner and try to kill him depending on where he is. And as you drop TNT, you're destroying the glowstone and creating darkness for spawns. And then there's one like a doomsday device here. And this ready for use tells you if the doomsday device is on cooldown or not. You see the light goes off. Here we go. Pow! Does one to everything. But there's a cooldown. And now it's ready to use. You can actually use it fairly frequently. However, the more you use it, the more you make it easier for the player to move through here, because he can jump up on the blocks. He can find the holes in the bedrock walls that were hidden in the brick. We can look at the wiring really quick. It's it took a lot of wiring to get this to work, to have all those buttons. This was before I was watching Cube Hamster. I did all this basically on my own without any... I had a little bit of help from a couple of people. But these are all the signals coming up. You could do this so much better now with the changes and with what I know about Redstone now. But these are all the buses going to the TNT. None of these TNT are in dispensers because you couldn't do that back then. They're all going to very elaborate setups. Took a lot of wiring. Okay, so after, let's see, how do we get out of here? We go through here. And this is the, it has a similar cooldown function as the second chamber. I won't go into the wiring because a lot of people probably aren't interested. Okay, so after you get through the third chamber as the runner, you tally up your number of deaths. You write them on the board right here with a sign. You take the rail cart back to the beginning and you do it again in the other roll. Then when you're done, the person with the most deaths loses and gets sent to the loser launcher. So this is the loser launcher. There's extra TNT and armor here. I'm in creative mode, so we don't need it. I wonder, let's see. See if I can do this. Let's see if I can get in there quick enough. Normally the winner would... No, oh, I can't shoot that. I can't shoot an ender pearl in creative mode. I never knew that. Oh, gameplay 101 for you there. Anyway, what would happen? You'd stand here, you'd get launched in the air, you'd fall, and you'd die. It's called the loser launcher. Unfortunately, the release of this map was totally ruined, basically. I think Team Nancy Drew was actually going to do a playthrough of it. Here's the problem. This map was released the day the patch came out that extended the build limit from 128 blocks to 256. And there was an undisclosed patch change in the patch that was not in the patch notes. And the change was that monsters no longer spawn on bedrock. The reason for this was that they were extending the build limit of normal worlds, but the nether was not getting extended. So there was going to be this huge space on top of the bedrock ceiling of the nether, and they didn't want monsters spawning up there. So they made it so that monsters don't spawn on netherrack or on bedrock. And this patch came out basically the same day I released the map. And so nothing was spawning in here, and so the chambers had way too many monsters. These spawn chambers here are there to keep the map from getting... why is that not a light? That's supposed to be glowstone. Is that a lighting glitch? They're there to cut down on the amount of natural spawns. Look at that. What's going on? Oh, there we go. Yeah, lighting glitch. That's weird. That says Zistonian Terror Factory, ZTF. That's ZDD, Zistonian Doomsday Device. And this one is... what is this one? Zistonian Labyrinth Generator. Yeah. You could do a lot more now with command blocks and with other custom spawners, with other mechanics in the game. Experience, all kinds of stuff. So I think I may revisit this at some point, but not quite yet. So, last thing to look at really quickly. This is something I made, a concept I had, and I called it the TNT Magazine. It holds, I think, 50 TNT, and it uses a bunch of pistons and a cobblestone generator to fire them in sequence directly down. And it kind of works like this. You can put it on a simple clock and then give it a pulse. And yeah, it looks like it still works. Haven't tried to use one in a long time. And it replaces the TNT in the line with cobblestone from that cobblestone generator. Now it's kind of... It's a little bit sad that now all of this, you can compress all of that into this right here. That's so sad. it's neat because now we can do way more crazy things with TNT. But I really enjoyed making this and figuring out how to do it. And that Doomsday device that I showed you a minute ago is made up of like 48 of these things all stacked together. But now you can just make like a little dispenser, and that's it. Let's see if they do the same thing. I'm pretty sure they will. Oh, did we do this wrong? There. Yeah. Yep, doing the same thing. Oh, so sad. But it'll give us many more opportunities. I like the crazy complexity of this for something that's now so simple. But next time we're gonna go into some basics of Globule 3, some ideas I have for it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna try to keep these short and sweet and to the point. See you later, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.